Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome to my sports corner. Hope you guys had a good Saturday evening, good Halloween. The Hall versus Silva card just wrapped up. I'm going to be going through it, giving my reactions and breakdowns to each of the fight. I'm going to start with the prelims, working my way up to the main card and getting to the main event. Sad way to see Anderson Silva go out, but we'll get to that. Starting up the prelims, we had Miles Johns getting the KO/TKO over Kevin Natividad in round number 3 with 2 minutes and 51 seconds. It's a pretty good fight, back and forth, bantamweight scrap. Miles Johns ended up hitting him with that clinch uppercut, but he did hit him with it. It looked like, what I meant to say is it looked like, Natividad kind of, whenever these guys get out of the clinch, they kind of seem to let their guard down, either not keeping their hands up or not paying attention, thinking they're safe and they're really not. And this is another prime example of it. Miles Johns hit him with a beautiful uppercut, KO'd him stiff. Man looked like he died out there. He went flying back, and that was the end of the fight. Beautiful finish from Miles Johns. I seen Brian Kelleher was tweeting saying that Kevin Natividad was they were trying to offer him that fight. And Brian Kelleher, I believe, it might be a ranked bantamweight. And I don't know why they keep giving this guy these easy fights. It kind of reminds me of, another fight on this card, Kevin Holland. But that's neither here nor there. Good win for Miles Johns. I don't know who I'd like to see him next. Maybe you could do him versus Kelleher. As the UFC likes to give him, these younger, not younger guys, but guys that are shorter into their career. But yeah, moving on up, we had a light heavyweight bout between Dustin Jacoby and Justin Ledet. Another beautiful finish, round number 1, 2:30. And I don't got too much to say. I didn't see too much of this fight. I did catch the finish. It was beautiful finish by Dustin Jacoby. They were going back and forth a little bit in round 1. Dustin Jacoby was definitely getting the better of it and ended up getting the finish there. His record's kind of but, that's why he's fighting on the prelims. Then moving on up, we had the bout between Cole Williams and Jason Witt. Cole Williams missed weight by a shit ton, I believe about 5 pounds or so. Jason Witt, took him down and beat him up a little bit. Ended up getting the submission in round number 2 with 2 minutes and 9 seconds. Good scrap there, Cole Williams was pretty bloodied up, ended up tapping to the arm triangle. Jason Witt really showed some decent ground game in that fight. Cole Williams coming into this fight, had a decent record, wasn't the greatest. Jason Witt coming in was either 17-6 or 18-6. I'm not sure if the records are updated yet. But yeah, Jason Witt definitely had his way with him. Had a 10-8 in round number 1, ended up getting the finish in round number 2. Yeah, and Cole Williams, I don't think he belongs in the UFC. Yeah, I don't got too much to say, but he missed weight, albeit on short notice the first time. The second time, you had fair warning and you still missed it by about just as much. He looked a little chunky too. Like, dude, you could, it wasn't like, he's solid muscle and maybe he's just too big for the division. No, this guy had a little bit of flab on him. Maybe you need to diet or hit the treadmill a little more, or hit the wrestling mat more was where he really should have been doing. But that's whatever. Hopefully, the UFC gets rid of him. Then moving on up, we had a middleweight scrap between Sean Strickland coming off of the 2-year layoff over Jack Marshman. I believe Jack Marshman was coming off of a little bit of layoff too. They said about a year or so. But yeah, it was a good scrap. They were, talking back and forth. Sean Strickland, it was kind of funny. It was kind of cringy at the same time. But, good scrap between the two of them. Sean Strickland, I believe, should have won 30-27 across all judges' scorecards. He looked good out there. He's got some good striking. Jack Marshman, was a guy that comes out there and throws bombs. And Sean Strickland just, won every single round. He landed 106 out of 227 versus Jack Marshman, who landed 48 out of 252. Pretty significant striking discrepancy there. Of course, Sean Strickland, like I said, was coming off the long layoff and had gotten into the motorcycle accident, I believe, and was fighting some potentially career threatening injuries. But he came back tonight, looked good. Yeah, he's definitely a possible contender there at middleweight. I know he had been fighting at welterweight before. He looked good at middleweight. He looks like a natural middleweight. He's a bigger guy. 6'1", 6'2", definitely pretty beefy. Yeah, I think he should definitely be staying at middleweight. 21-3 now, maybe 22-3. Like I said, I'm not sure if these records are updated yet. But yeah, beautiful performance there by him. Good scrap between the two of them. And yeah. Alrighty, and moving on up, we had this beautiful head kick finish by Adrian Yanez. Got the victory over Victor Victor Rodriguez in round number 1, 2 minutes, 46 seconds into it. I believe these records are updated, as a matter of fact, because I know Yanez was 11-3 coming into this fight. But yeah, Yanez, he's honestly, quickly becoming one of my favorite fighters. He is a definitely, a good-looking bantamweight prospect. Coming into this fight, he was a pretty significant favorite. But he showed you exactly why. He came out there, was laying bombs on Victor Rodriguez. Rodriguez was definitely falling back, but Yanez just showed that he was, a couple levels above. Rodriguez came in around 133 pounds. Definitely the smaller guy, and like I said, Yanez, baby Masvidal, as some people were calling him on Twitter, was just showing throwing bombs. Definitely had the better boxing, the better footwork. Victor Rodriguez tried to take him down a couple times. Yanez just wasn't having it. Pieced him up on the feet, and then Rodriguez tried to exit out of the what's the word I'm looking for? Out of the exchange and got head kicked. Yanez was piecing him up, had him hurt. Hit him with a big right hand, hit him with the uppercut. With those beautiful hands that he has. Rodriguez tried to dip out of the exchange and ended up getting caught by the head kick, dropped. Beautiful finish. Ref called off immediately, and yeah, Yanez secured his 50 Gs. Beautiful performance by him. Like I said, one of my favorite, quickly becoming one of my favorite fighters. His dad, the UFC broadcast team said that his dad had passed back in 2016, I believe, and Yanez does this for him. And whenever he had secured the UFC contract after the Contender Series, he took it to his grave. And I just like to hear stuff about like that, or like to hear about stuff like that. Yanez is, a good guy. I like the post-fight interview. And yeah, he's definitely, like I said, a pretty good bantamweight prospect. I'm excited to see what's next from this guy. Alrighty, and moving on up the card, we had Alexander the Great Hernandez versus Kris Groots Macher. Alexander Hernandez, has had an up and down UFC career. I believe he moved to, Factory X Muay Thai, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. After his last fight, he got TKO'd by Drew Dober. Kris Grutzemacher was fighting, I believe, out of his own camp. He's from close to me in New Bern. I actually live about 30, 45 minutes away from New Bern, so that was cool to see. But yeah, Alex Hernandez just showed that he was levels above this guy. Came out there, showed good footwork, in and out. Was hitting him with some good leg kicks. Showing him good hands. Was hitting him with a couple rights. He hit him with a beautiful head kick. Actually, kind of, I don't want to say wobbled him, but it definitely, hit him pretty solidly. But, Kris kept walking forward, and then Alexander Hernandez ended up hitting him. I forget what the exact combo was, but ended up hitting him with the shot. At that point, he had wobbled him. Kris started backing up a little bit, and Alex pounced on him, hit him with a left hook, uppercut, left hook, another uppercut. Kris' body just fell. Ref called it off, and yeah, good performance there by Alexander Hernandez. Got the first round stoppage. I'm not sure if he got a performance of the night bonus. I know Yanez did. But yeah, Alexander Hernandez, was a pretty hot prospect, coming into the UFC. He had defeated, in his debut, he beat Beneil Dariush, who's, look at him now, one of the higher ranked UFC lightweights. Then he got another victory over Albin Moussier. And then after that, it's kind of been up and down. He lost to Donald Cerrone, got a dub over Francisco Trinaldo, lost to Drew Dober, got TKO'd again, and now he got the KO over Kris Grutzemacher. He did get a performance of the night, as a matter of fact. So yeah, good performance by him, and I definitely think he was worthy of the performance of the night bonus there. And man, let me say, we definitely had a good amount of finishes, on this card. I always love to see that, coming into this event. There wasn't the biggest names on it, but there was definitely a lot of intriguing names. We had Yanez, like I said, who was intriguing. Sean Strickland was intriguing. Hernandez is always an interesting guy to watch. He has been ranked pretty high in the past, and like I said, has been up and down. And then on the main card, of course, we had, Bobby Green, interesting prospect. Kevin Holland, Greg Hardy's always interesting. Then we had the fight that I was most excited for, Bryce Mitchell, Andre Philly. And then, of course, we had the main event between Uriah Hall and Anderson Silva that I'll be getting on into a little bit. But yeah, beautiful performance there by Alexander Hernandez. Got the dub, got the job done. Showed that he is, the better fighter of the two. Got him out of there in round number 1. And yeah, beautiful performance by Alexander the Great. Alrighty, and now that is it for the prelims. Moving on up to the main card, we had the main card opener of Bobby Green versus Thiago Moises. Pretty good scrap between the two of them. What do you want to say? Bobby Green definitely, outlanded him in terms of significant strikes and total strikes. Landed at a better clip. However, Thiago Moises landed the more impactful strikes. Almost had that heel lock again. Bobby Green, of course, being the ground guru that he is, wasn't having it. Fought off the submission, got out of there. They each hit 2 out of 3 takedowns. I think this fight could have gone either way. I personally would have given it to Bobby Green, but Thiago Moises definitely did land the more impactful shots. And man, Thiago Moises' striking looked good, man. In that Michael Johnson fight, he was getting beat on the feet and got that submission and, won it that way. But in this fight, he beat Bobby Green on the feet. And Bobby Green is, by no means a slouch. He's a veteran. He's fought 3, 4, maybe 5 times this year. I'm not even sure how many times. But yeah, I believe Thiago Moises ended up stealing rounds 1 and 3. Round 2 was a pretty clear Bobby Green round. The other 2 were up for debate. The judges ended up giving it unanimously to Thiago Moises. I'm not going to argue with it too much. A lot of people on Twitter were clamoring about it, calling it a robbery and whatnot. But, this stuff happens. You had the more active guy versus the more impactful guy. And at the end of the day, it comes down to damage done. It's not who throws more strikes. It's who does the most damage. That's how you judge a fight in the UFC, and that's how you judge a fight in the real world. Whoever, beat the other guy up. And in this fight, I would say, Thiago Moises probably beat Bobby Green up. There was a lot of damage on Bobby Green's face versus Thiago Moises didn't have too much damage. Bobby Green was bleeding all over. Bobby Green did land, a couple of good strikes on Moises, but Moises just kind of ate him. He hit a couple elbows, couple right hands here and there, hit some good leg kicks. But, man, Moises is a good fighter, man. He definitely showed a lot of improvements between that Michael Johnson's fight and this fight. And, his ground game's always going to be there. And now he just, is going to continue improving his stand-up. And yeah, he's definitely an interesting guy to watch out for at the lightweight division. Alrighty, and moving on up the card, we have my man Kevin the Trailblazer Holland defeating Charlie Ontiveros by verbal tap in round number 1. Charlie Ontiveros came out there, immediately hit Kevin Holland with the nice strike, then hit him try to hit him with the axe kick. And Kevin Holland said, what, fuck this, I'm taking you down. And just the end of the night for him, they had to take Charlie out on a stretcher. I'm pretty sure he's all good now. But yeah, Kevin Holland just showed that he's the better fighter. He's been fighting a lot of these guys on short notice. I forget what the name of the guy that he was supposed to fight coming into this, but that would have been a lot more interesting fight than this was. But what do you want to say? Kevin Holland, did what he was supposed to do. Coming in, I believe he was the biggest favorite on the card, if I'm not mistaken. I believe he was somewhere around like minus 900 or something. But yeah, he just kind of ragdolled this guy. I know Charlie had been fighting at welterweight in the past, and this was obviously his UFC debut, but Kevin Holland, made it look like it was this guy's UFC debut. Took him down at will, was hitting some good elbows. The first time he took him down again, dropped this guy on his neck, the guy had to, hit him with a verbal tap. And yeah, Kevin Holland got the job done, was yapping at Asani after the fight. And yeah, I love to see that. I'm not a big fan of Asani. He's kind of an annoying guy. He's got an annoying personality. And yeah, Kevin Holland, said that Adesanya was trying to be friendly in the hotel and he don't play that shit and blah, blah, blah. He's coming for him. And yeah, I'd like to see Kevin Holland get a step up an opponent. I'm going to check out the UFC rankings here real quick and see who they could give him. He said after the fight that he would like to get a step up an opponent too. He keeps, like I said, keeps taking these short notice fights, being the company man that he is. And yeah, I think you could do him versus Ian Heinisch. That'd be a good fight. You could do him versus Akhmedov, Shabazian. Any of those would make sense for him. I definitely believe he deserves a ranked opponent. He's looked good. He's fought 4 times, I believe, this year. Won all 4. Yeah, and I believe he wants to get another fight before the end of the year. Let's do it, man. Let's book him versus either Ian Heinisch, Shabazian, Akhmedov, whoever you want to do. Let's get him a ranking next to his name, and let's get him on the fast track to the title shot. Him versus Asani would be a cool fight. I don't think he's ready for it yet, but yeah, good performance by him. Got a performance of the night bonus. I don't really know how I feel about that. I think you could have gave it to somebody else. You could have gave it to, let's see here. You could have gave it to somebody off the prelims. You could have gave it to Jason Witt. I'm not sure if Miles Johns got a performance of the night bonus, but if he didn't, he could have gotten it. Uriah Hall could have gotten it if he didn't get one. Greg Hardy could have gotten it if he didn't. I'd probably give it to Kevin Holland over Greg Hardy, thinking about it. But yeah, I'm not gonna hate on him. I like Kevin Holland. He's got a good fighter, mentality. I like to see fighters like him, that are willing to take all these short notice fights. It's not a bitch. He ain't scared of nobody. And yeah, good performance by him. Alrighty, and moving on up the card, we had Greg Hardy getting the TKO over Maurice Green. Round number 2, 1 minute and 12 seconds into it. Greg Hardy coming in was the favorite. Maurice Green has got to be one of the worst heavyweights. He got that weird submission over Jan Vellante. Jan Vellante had a fucking obesity attack and tapped out because he blew his load and didn't want to be in there. He wanted to hurry up and go eat a cheeseburger, but that ain't gonna work against Greg Hardy. Greg Hardy is a big hitter. He came from beating girls before. Now he's beating grown men. And man, Greg Hardy, he's a good heavyweight, man. He hasn't been training MMA for too long, but man, he's decent, man. Maurice Green isn't the greatest heavyweight. As a matter of fact, he's one of the worst heavyweights in the heavyweight division, I would say. Greg Hardy made him look like it tonight. Maurice Green tried to protest the stoppage afterwards. But I mean, dude, you were beat. You got up. Then Greg Hardy, pushed him back down, continued hammering away, and then it was at that point that Hardy called the fight off. I mean, what do you want to say? He got dropped in the first round, I believe. Got dropped again. It almost looked like by a jab that Hardy dropped him with. But I mean, you got dropped by Jan Vellante in the fight before this. Greg Hardy is certainly a different level of power than Jan Vellante is. Greg Hardy ended up closing the show. Beautiful performance by him. After in the post fight presser or whatever, Greg Hardy said that I'm innocent. I was never proven guilty, and that's a lie. He was proven guilty, but he didn't appeal, and the girl or whatever that he ended up being his ex-wife or ex-girlfriend or whatever, they couldn't find her or whatever, so they ended up dropping all the charges. But interesting story there by Greg Hardy, but I'm not going to comment on it too much. He's here to beat up dudes now, and that's what he did tonight. Good performance by Mr. Greg Hardy, like I said. Alrighty, and moving on up to, we are at the co-main event now. We had Bryce Thug Nasty Mitchell versus Andre Fili. Bryce Mitchell ended up getting the decision victory over Andre Fili. Unanimous decision. I believe it was 230-27, 129-28. Mitchell did lay on him a little bit, but I do like Mitchell. He came out there in his camo shorts that he had been begging for. He's a cool character. I like him. Both guys showed some respect after the fight. He did, like I said, lay on him a little bit. However, he was improving position, staying busy enough. And yeah, ended up getting the unanimous decision over Fili. Fili was definitely his best, gave him his best test to this point. Fili is a good fighter, coming in this fight. He had a 21-7 record. Mitchell was coming in 13-1. Yeah, Mitchell has that number 15 ranking on his name. I'd like to see him improve on his stand-up a little bit before he goes into his next fight. Of course, he has the grappling, but I don't know how long that's going to work for. Andre Fili showed it a little bit in this fight that, if you can stay up, which he didn't do too much of, but he stayed up a little bit and was, able to get up from the bottom. that, Mitchell's striking isn't the greatest, and that, if you are able to stuff the takedowns, Mitchell's going to be in a little bit of trouble. So, I'd like to see Mitchell work on his stand up a little bit more going into the next fight. Of course, Philly is a good striker, and it's somewhat hard to, look good against him in a stand up contest, especially when you're someone like Bryce Mitchell, who's, a wrestler. But yeah, I'm not going to hate on Bryce Mitchell, good victory for him, got the dub undoubtedly. I would have given it 29-28. He's got that number 15 next to his name. I'd like to see him get a ranked opponent next. I'm going to take another look at these UFC rankings to see who we could give him. Let's see here. All right, featherweight, he is number 15. You could do him versus Ige. That'd be interesting. Him versus Sadiq Yusuf would be cool. You could do him versus Ryan Hall. That'd be an interesting fight as well. Any of those I think could make sense. You could even, go all the way up, potentially Jeremy Stevens maybe. I know Stevens recently pulled out. Any of those would be cool for my man Bryce Thug Nasty Mitchell. Yeah, decent performance. I don't want to say like good or great performance. But yeah, got the job done. Unanimous decision victory. And yeah, I'm excited to see, what this guy's got coming next. Alrighty, and then moving on to the main event. This was a main event that I wasn't too, excited for. Of course, I'm always excited to see the legend Anderson Silva come out there, but at this point, he's getting close to 50 years old. Uriah Hall is kind of he's exciting sometimes, other times he's not. But, it's neither here nor there. We had Uriah Hall getting the TKO over Anderson Silva in round number 4, 1 minute and 24 seconds into it. Uriah Hall, you're a bitch, fuck you. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, it was a pretty good scrap while it lasted. Anderson Silva was being aggressive at some points. Definitely showing that he was willing to trade with them. That was eventually what led to his downfall in this fight. Anderson Silva was coming forward, throwing some sloppy shots in that fourth round after getting dropped at the end of the third round, almost finished there. If there was another 20, 30 seconds, I believe the fight probably would have been ended. But yeah, like I said, was coming forward, throwing a little bit of sloppy shots in that fourth round. Uriah Hall hit him with a nice left hook, dropped him, closed the show. After the fight, these two guys, showed a lot of respect to one another. Uriah Hall was actually crying, saying he's sorry. It reminded me of that Ric Flair versus Shawn Michaels whenever he sweet chin music him and sent him into retirement. That's kind of what happened here, Uriah Hall sweet chin music Silva and sent him into retirement. But, it might not be retirement. It was his last UFC fight. Maybe he'll go to Bellator or something. But, Anderson Silva is, not on the greatest roll right now. I believe he hasn't gotten a real win since like 2012 or something, if I'm not mistaken. Let me fact check that real quick. He actually has the victory over Derek Brunson, I believe. But aside from that, he hasn't gotten a victory since 2012. Let's see. Yeah, so he got the victory over Brunson in 2017, and then before that, he had the no contest over Nick Diaz, and then before that, his last victory was Stephan Bonner. Yeah, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 out of his last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, 7 of his last 10, it looks like, are losses. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 7 of his last 9, I'm sorry, and then he had the no contest, and then the victory over Derek Brunson in there. And, Silva hasn't really looked horrible in any of these, defeats. That loss to Michael Bisping was really close. The first Weidman loss was kind of fluky. He's fucking around. The second one was a leg injury, kind of fluky. He won over Diaz, that got overturned. Daniel Cormier was short notice. Asani, he looked good. Jerry Cannonier kind of beat him pretty badly. And then Uriah Hall, they were going back and forth. And then Uriah Hall, like I said, ended up getting that beautiful left hook finish over him. Doesn't look bad, but like I said, he's getting close to 50. I believe he's 45 at this point. I think personally he should hang it up, but he'll probably go to Bellator. Where all these old fighters go after they're done with their UFC career. In the post-fight presser, he wasn't willing to commit to this being his last fight. He said, I have to go talk to his team or whatever and see what they have to say. Uriah Hall got the victory over him as he should. I believe he's ranked 10 in the UFC middleweight rankings. yeah, number 10. As far as who he could fight next, maybe Gastelum. You could maybe do him and Shabazi and something like that. Um, decent performance by him. Did what he was supposed to, like I said. You hate to see Silva go out like that, after all he's done for the sport. I would have liked to see him get a win. He was, like I said, looking good in those first couple rounds, and then towards the third and fourth round, he got clipped a couple times, and that was it. But yeah, decent. Actually, not a decent. This is a very good night of fights. Like I said, it wasn't the biggest names on the card. However, there's a lot of interesting fighters. And then coming up next week, we have the fight between Thiago Santos and Glover Teixeira on the headliner. Got a couple decent fights on there. We actually have Ian Heinisch on there, so I don't think you can match him up versus Holland next. I think you could do Holland versus the winner of Heinisch versus Brendan Allen. The winner of that will definitely have a ranking next to their name, so you can match Holland up versus the winner of that fight, like I said. But yeah, keep an eye out for my predictions for that fight. I didn't do any predictions for this card. I was pretty busy this week. But yeah, drop a like if you guys enjoyed this video, comment, subscribe, and yeah, I'll see you guys next time.